Now, one of the things that I think is going to be critical for this week, especially with the wind, is how much rain fell on the backside of this and where's that kind of sharp divide where if you were to the north of this, you did not pick up the precipitation from this weekend event. Keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to come back to it in just a few seconds here. But I wanted to show you the storm reports. Now, these were on the 14th, and so we had a lot of nasty weather. 107 reports of severe storms, including 11 tornado reports. And then as we went into yesterday, the 15th, we can see here that, again, just actually north of where I am this morning, east of where I am this morning. I'm in Destin for an event down here today. You can see, again, more severe weather damage caused by the line of storms that rolled to the south. Now, I wanted to show you something on radar that you can all be watching for. So I'm going to go over here to one of my favorite radar apps. It's called Radar Scope. And it's one that does have a fee to it, but I think it's well worth it for what I use it for. I'm going to take you back to Valentine's Day on the 14th, and you are in Houston, so we're looking at the Houston radar here. Now, what I want you to be paying attention to is we often think about tornadic activity as it pertains to supercells. Supercells, of course, make the biggest, baddest tornadoes, but this is a long squall line. And sometimes when we look at these long squall lines, it's important to watch for a very specific feature to show up on them. And what I'm talking about here is this pattern. Can you kind of see these little cusps that show up? That's just a few of them there. And what we find is that right inside of these cusps, right in through here, just because of horizontal wind shear, not vertical wind shear, but horizontal wind shear, we spin up brief tornadoes. And certainly as this went through parts of eastern Texas and then into Louisiana and Mississippi, so this continued into that area, we did see those spin ups. Now, we can look at it in terms of velocity. So this is the radar's ability to measure not only the intensity of the precipitation, but also the wind speed and direction. And as we let this play out here, let's see if we can get this running. There we go. There it is. Let's stop it, and I want to just walk you through to show you what we're looking at here. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so we can see this. There we go. So what you'll notice is the greens represent precipitation coming toward the radar. The reds are away. And what we start to look for here are these little couplets. You can start to see a few of them emerge where you can get a sense of rotation. And these little bits into here are caused by horizontal wind shear, but when they do spin up, they can produce these brief but sometimes quite potent little tornadoes. And again, we saw that going across as these storms continued in Louisiana and Mississippi on Valentine's Day. So with that, I want to just get you back thinking through what this pattern's doing, all right? We've lost our downstream block. I think that's critical. There's the upstream block, which is here. That's the high over low. There's the trough we've been discussing developing for some time. But we've opened up a ridge that's kind of got two pieces to it, here and here, but this and this. So whenever we have low pressure north of high pressure like this, the flow's coming around like that, and it's going to go in between. So we can see that here again. So what I like about this pattern is that it's starting to become a bit more progressive, but there's still some significant concerns in the near term with what this particular pattern is going to do. And right now it's going to come down to soil moisture. Okay, this is going to give me my best indication, I think, on where we have incredibly dry surface conditions that the winds coming out of this next system could be very problematic with. And I'm thinking right in through here. So remember, I said just watch where that line is, because to the south of it there was rain. To the north of it, our top 10 centimeters, our top 4 inches is still very, very dry. And this kind of curls back around here into parts of Colorado and into the panhandles. And this particular region is going to be quite vulnerable, I think, to some very strong winds and what could happen in terms of the risk of wildfires. So this is the February 16th Storm Prediction Center map on where there is fire risk today. And we can see a lot of Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, the panhandles. This whole region is going to be experiencing some very, very strong winds. And as you just saw, we still have some very, very dry soils in this area. Now, it's common. This is not an uncommon thing to see as we get out of February and start to head toward March to get very windy springs in this area. But we could see some blowing dust and, of course, the risk of these fires. All right. All hazards weather map early this morning has a broad area of red flag warning. These are all fire watches here. And then you have the high wind watches, warnings, and advisories. And then take a look at this. There are winter storm warnings in parts of the Colorado Rockies. Now, to the north of it, we have a winter weather advisory, a winter storm watch. I'll say more about this snow swath that I think is setting up here. And it's another morning of very dense fog into this part of the United States. But most of my attention, I think, in the way this pattern is evolving is coming down to what's going on in the west. Strong winds, winter storm warnings that line the Sierra Nevada, parts of the southern Cascades, winter weather advisories throughout much of the rest of the western mountain chains. And we're just watching a slow progression of systems that are going to come through. And what I mean by slow is they're slowly going to be moving to the north with time. So the trough is deep now. It will probably broaden itself out and hit more of the northwest very, very soon. It's this one right here. And I'm very interested in this jet stream pattern personally this week. Because of just work travel this week. So I'm in Destin this morning for an event. I will be flying this evening to Tucson for a great event. I can't wait for that one tomorrow too. And then I got to fly back to Little Rock. And I'm going to be in this the whole time. And these 3 events with growers this week, I love them. It's my way to connect with everybody. But my flights could be kind of fun. Now, as I look at this jet stream pattern, again, we are delivering systems with even some little bit of subtropical flow to the west right now. What I do want to point out is this is a broad jet streak. And the reason why I want to make this out is because we can see there's a trough on the trailing edge and on the leading edge as well. So there's 2 of them versus one massive united trough just to dig out a huge system coming out of the mountains. It's still a good look, but it needs it to be truly epic, I guess you'd say, for making a big west coast cyclone that ejects off the mountains. I would rather not see this so flat like this. I'd rather see a deep trough digging in here. Just wanted to be nitpicky about the pattern if I could be. But we are going to get some strong winds out of this, and I think I was going to dive right into this with the high-res NAM this morning. And as we play it forward, getting through today into tomorrow, we're just going to see 2 days of very strong winds coming through here. So this isn't just an event for today on the 16th. We're going to watch it on the 17th as well. And just through Wednesday, midday Wednesday, we have a broad area of the central United States that is expected, according to our models, to be developing incredibly strong winds. Now, just to take note here, some of the winds coming off the mountains could be 60 to 70 miles an hour. This extends from, again, Montana all the way down to New Mexico. And overall, very, very windy early and midweek this week. So please take a lot of caution with respect to what we're expecting out of these winds and the risks we have for wildfires in this area. All right. Okay, from there, I want to take you over to the high-res NAM again, but I'm going to show you precipitation type and intensity. We're watching this system coming into the west, and again, the Sierra Nevada will be loaded with snow out of this. But is this system going to kind of get out of the mountains and move? That's going to be the big question. Because the first system left a front that came through that kind of scoured some of the moisture. We talked about that last week. So as I play you through Tuesday morning, getting out there to Tuesday afternoon and evening, there is the risk to the north. Can you see this? For some mixed precipitation, possibly some ice with rain farther to the south. This is Tuesday evening that moves and stretches eventually from like Saskatoon, all the way over to New York. And in this particular region, there's going to be some snows. And so I have a commenter. I love all the comments. I read them every time, even if I don't get to reply. But from Winnipeg, like, hey, where's my winter? Well, I got something for you. At least there is some snow trying to get into that area here in southern Canada. But as that system kind of pans out right through this area with heavier snow, you did notice that there is a follow-up low that's coming right here through Oregon into northern California. And it's going to slide right down through the mountains in Sierra Nevada and try to come out through the Four Corners states late in the time period for the forecast, which again, the NAM only goes out to midweek this week. So I wanted to get that high resolution view of things first before we stretch it out to our more broader models. So let's just flip on over to the European and kind of get a sense of what it's seeing. All right, so we know there's these western troughs, and there's our first system. Again, I love the depth of this low, but I needed this high to get here sooner to pump moisture. And as a result, we do see quite a bit of snow farther to the north out of this, but I'm not getting the full-on kind of, like southern root of this system is lighting up with a lot of severe weather. All right, but then again, anyway, this is Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon and evening. Our next low comes out, and I am watching this one carefully all week because of what it could possibly put down in terms of snow into parts of Nebraska, one of our driest states in the central United States. This low follows, there it goes, and goes right over the top of like the Quad Cities here between Iowa and Illinois, and then eventually gets into the Great Lakes states. Now that system, as it rolls farther to the east, will be followed by another low coming into California. Again, I mentioned last week, we got maybe 6 different storm systems coming into the west in the next 10 to 15 days. So that system's coming through. Let me take you back here, because what I'm curious about is where that rain snow line is going to be. For example, in Pennsylvania or in lower Michigan. And then the snow coming around the back side of this, out of Wisconsin into Minnesota and possibly here into Iowa. Where are we in time? This is this Friday morning. Now that system rolls through, and you can see that the European's trying to dump some pretty good snows into the Northeast, while the next low comes into California. So this is now Friday evening. Let's play through the weekend and see what the models are doing with the next low. So big, deep cyclone off the coast of California. And that, again, do you see how long that's there? Let's go back to Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then many of us right now are trying to see when this one comes out. Look at this. This is next Tuesday into Wednesday. We're way out in the forecast. But this is trying to put down more snow in the Rockies, rain now to the Midwest. And what I'm curious about is what it's going to do with snow into the Northeast. Now, I'm 246 hours out in a single run. And so we understand that this is not going to be accurate. But you do see the cadence of systems. We're looking at 2 to 3 systems every 7 days moving from the west to the east. And by the way, when we get out there, we're still not done with this. You take note out here 10 days from now, we've shifted more of our lows farther to the north, but this is going to help fill in some of those gaps in the Pacific Northwest. So that's just a quick look at the European model. Let's just now go kind of look at its total precip. All right, so we're going to play this forward. Here we go. Total precip, this gets us through Wednesday. Again, a lot of this is going to be snow. That's through Wednesday. Getting us out there toward Friday. Remember, this will likely be snow as well. But this area down here continues to stay very dry, while the Sierra Nevada could grab 7-8 inches of liquid equivalent. I mean, that's going to be snow, of course, but just take a look. So do we fill in the gap in the central U.S.? Well, we are out now to Sunday morning. We're now watching the next deep low come into California. Look at this now. The California, Sierra Nevada, some of the models are putting down 14 to 15 inches of liquid equivalent. But we're going to see that system come out of the mountains and try to fill in some of the gap in the middle part of the United States. My biggest concern is I'm all the way out now to February 27th, and we still have a couple of sizable gaps, and the Southeast seems to miss out on some of this as well, which makes the rainfall they just experienced this weekend so critical. Now, overall, this has been pretty well predicted by our subseasonal models, picking up the precipitation totals across the Midwest Great Lakes states into the Northeast. And if this does come through as advertised, California after this February will not need moisture in the month of, we just won't. We won't need the moisture in the month of March to ensure that we have great water resources for the remainder of the year. And that's how critical this is going to be. All right, that is the European model precipitation total outlook. I do want to show you the GFS. In fact, let's do apples to apples here. I'm going to go back just to there. That's 10 days. So that's a 10-day Euro outlook. That's a 10-day GFS. Take note. I'm in Illinois, right? That's my home state. Boy, the GFS is opening up more dry slots here, keeping things farther to the north. The European is our wetter model for most of the United States. Again, European and GFS. Now, I want to talk about snow and do a model comparison as well. Let's just get out here and see what these next 7 days hold real quick. So that's the 7-day outlook from the European. And again, there is our main corridor if you're not in the Western Mountains. This is the system late this week, right? But just take a look at some of these totals in the West. I mean, right now the European's dropping 105 inches in parts of the peaks of the Sierra Nevada. It's got good snow for parts of the Colorado Rockies. We've been looking, right? We know that the North Platte, South Platte basins, plus the Colorado River Basin here needs this snow. But up through the Southern Cascades, even here in the Payette National Forest, we've got good snow. This gap and this gap are concerning to me. These are dry areas, and the models had previously been forecasting better precipitation for them and taken it out. But I showed you the European. Here's the GFS. And I got to be honest, there's a lot of similarities, unless you live here. Do you see this? This is the GFS forecast versus the Euro. And what's going on out here, making the GFS drop, 20 inches into Boston, 30 inches into Boston, is this. So here's our old mapping system side by side. We're continuing to work on the new one for you. I'm just going to play this out. European is right, GFS is left. I love the agreement, the models. They've got systems timed up well. They're not exact in the position of snow and rain, but the systems are there in the forecast, which is what's important. When they're wildly different, it just removes all confidence. But at this point, through Wednesday, all right, we're doing pretty well. Now watch this. Here we are Thursday into Friday, and that low curls up into the northeast. That's not the big one we're talking about. We got to get past that. And already you can see the differences. The European model sends a system through with no follow-up. In fact, it tries to build in high pressure here. GFS has a lingering frontal boundary and some overrunning hitting this region. So already by this weekend, one model says nothing. The other model is putting down in Arkansas 3 to 4 inches of rain. Now this is the system we're going to watch go into the northeast because it is non-existent in the European, and it's putting down just massive snowfall amounts. West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and then right here along the northeast coast. Now, they both have the follow-up system coming into the west, see it? Although the Europeans are more progressive with it. But already out there, this is only 6 days out in the forecast. Major model separation taking place. And we're just going to watch it just to kind of see and understand what this means. Oh, I'm curious. Let's just do something real quick here. I'm going to use my friend Ryan Malley's skill scores. I love this stuff. I should ask him for the code to do it. That's the Euro right now, and that's the GFS. So the GFS does have a substantially lower skill score in the latest model run. I think it's important to know that, given what I just showed you in the model differences here. Over the next 10 days, my biggest concern, okay, is this region in through here staying drier, and then how these systems progress so quickly, opening up a lot of dry air to get into the plains. Now, I understand if you're down here, winds in February and March, dust in February and March, like we are, fire weather down here in February and March, while I'm from Illinois and don't realize it, it's common. It's very common in this area. We have to fill this in, though, at some point in March and April to not have to worry about this being an expanding drought region. And last year it did it. It just did. I mean, we were worried. We saw huge dust storms coming out of New Mexico, Texas. They rolled across, what was that, March 14th. Huge, like, Dust Bowl era looking dust storm went through Kansas. But by the time we progressed into April and May, we saw storms in this area. So I just want to make that point as you look at this map showing who's got the risk of being on the drier side of average. What about 10 days from now? We still have our western trough, but as I mentioned, there seems to be a deepening of it farther to the north. And as a result, we see that all of our week 2 forecasts continue to favor more of California, Oregon, Washington, and the northwest into the wetter side of things. But this isn't done. You can still see in all the models there's a storm system ejecting, coming out of the mountains, and will progress across the country. What I don't like about this is, again, that area that we see drier. It is in all the models here. Okay, so that's week 2. We have something that needs to be watched down south in terms of who is unable to be getting some of this moisture. All right, from there, I did want to show you some stuff on temperature. So I went and picked out Glasgow, 33 degrees this morning. And what I wanted to show you was the yearly temperatures to date. Because after just bottoming out here with incredibly cold temperatures, I mean, this is minus 20. They've had this huge return, such that they've now, for the last couple of weeks, been well above their historical averages. And I'm just looking at this knowing that Montana, you do this a lot. You just boom like that, and then you rise up again and drop. And if we look at the forecast out there, this is just your hourly forecast. We see 49 today, 50 tomorrow, chances some precip. But look at these temperatures down here, 1 degree Fahrenheit next Saturday morning and Sunday morning. So we know that much colder temperatures are coming. Oh, by the way, for those of you that need this data, especially those of you on the West Coast, Matt coded up over the weekend chill portions. Now, if you don't know what chill portions are, please, you can go look this up real quick and look up the Fishman dynamic model. That's what he's using. But it's a new feature that we just added to the website, and a whole lot more new stuff is coming very, very soon. Anyways, I was talking about parts of Montana because, again, today's very mild. So is the Midwest. Watch these changes, though. This is Monday into Tuesday. Look at the heat. I mean, 77 in Lincoln. That's what we're expecting. 69 in Indianapolis on Wednesday. But Montana, we're going to go from the 50s and 60s down to the teens. And these are highs, single-digit highs by Thursday. So major swing as these systems are going to now come out of the west and be able to follow that gradient. So this is the temperature gradient that we have been waiting on. Cold west, warm east excites the jet stream to do that. That was non-existent for weeks upon weeks to finish January and start February. This is Friday, getting into Saturday and Sunday. And beyond that, let's just go have a look at these temperatures. Now, you remember that for the last couple of weeks, I've been concerned that we could unload cold back into this area should it develop and spread across the Canadian prairie and get back into the Northeast. The new 15-day forecasts look like this. Here's the next 5 days. That's day 5 through 10. And already now, we're out to the 26th of February. This is not faded. And if we go now to the end of the forecast, we look out there all the way to March 3rd, and again, very mild conditions. Now, I've attributed this to several things, which we're going to review in just a few moments here. But I really thought, if you'd asked me 5-10 days ago if this was going to have the ability to come through, I thought it is. Now I'm just seeing brief interludes of temperatures that are able to really drop cold here. And I'm not so sure this whole area is going to be able to see, especially here, anything but mild conditions going over the next 15 days and possibly beyond. The beyond is because of this. Now, what we're looking at here, if you kind of get your map lined up on the bottom, is the blues are where there's troughs. So here and here to finish the month. Where is that? That's located in this area and then here. Now, when we were tucked into that brutally cold air, we had these troughs, not here and here, but they were over on this area, which anchored right around the Hudson Bay. I'm just not seeing that right now. So this means that this pattern could keep all of its colder air in Western Canada, maybe parts of Eastern Alaska, Western Canada, allowing for a lot of the lower 48 to be more mild. It's also important to note that the MJO, which is currently in phase 3, is not expected right now to sweep out phase 4, 5, and 6, but expected to crash into null space. And some of the new long-range models going out 20 plus days are not whipping it out here to phase 7 and 8. Had we done that, come out to phase 7 and 8, I'd be talking about the return of some really, really cold air. This is also being echoed in the GFS. This is a 7-day sliding window of temperatures. So here's the next 7 days. That is week 2. So look at this. And by the way, when you see this gradient like this, understand that this will be pulling systems through the United States. I just think they're going to be more here and here, not here. They're going to be farther to the north. Again, that's week 2. Let's get out into week 3 right there. Still mild in the GFS. And then we got week 4. So that whole time period, so much of the plains is warmer than average. And the concern is over the rapidity of drought development symptoms and their frequency, I guess I should say, in this region. Must watch that carefully. Okay, one thing that's helping keeping things mild is the polar vortex is on the other side of the northern hemisphere. It's actually over here towards Scandinavia, back toward Russia. And the forecast models, let's let this reset here. There it is today. Ready? There it is. And if you watch, the European model is not returning any sort of a lobe of the polar vortex back into North America, all the way out there to the end of February, just wobbling it around over towards Siberia rather than coming back toward North America. It also helps, as we mentioned on Friday, that the EPO is going positive and then dropping off at some point. This is like the 17th of March, but this tends to be a signal to flood more of North America with mild air. And the Climate Prediction Center saw it as well. So on Friday, when they updated their forecast, much more warmer conditions to finish February and to start March. But they're keeping the southern tier of the United States drier, the Pacific Northwest wetter, same thing with the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Mississippi Valley. But again, a lot of what you're seeing here echoes what our models are suggesting. You just saw me show you this. Look at the precipitation forecast by the new European model. This is for all of March. Now again, this is okay. We're not desperate for March to just hit California. We do need more moisture in the Northwest. This is a major concern for me, but it looks as though March is going to be quite wet for much of the Midwest, Mid-South, Northeast, Great Lakes states, Upper Midwest, this whole region I just circled here. All right. Okay, quick breath here because I'm going to do South America. Then I got some new long-range stuff, so this is a bit of a longer video today. We did see that the soybean harvest pace is fast, but the planting of safrinha corn is just a little off the 5-year average. It's about where it was last year. Interestingly enough, the soybean harvest is right where it was last year as well. So both are about 10% last year and this year, higher than the 5-year average, but the soybeans are coming out relatively quickly. We did take note that it was plenty of rain that came throughout Brazil's Cerrado region here. Had some more storms get into Uruguay. That was one of our drier places, and still some here in northern parts of Argentina, which we've been observing the drought develop over the month of January and now into February. If you look, though, this is a great animation. Let's see if I can get this to play. This is just a look back over the last week at global precipitation as measured by satellite. And I just hope you're watching South America, because we did see storms coming through some critically dry areas in Argentina. And that's been needed to see that. All right, going forward, take a look at this. Buenos Aires is drier. Much of the rest of Argentina is wetter. Not concerned about the dry signal you see here. This is week 1. This is 10 days out. This is week 2. We continue to watch the rebuilding of drier conditions in through here, putting Buenos Aires now into 2 weeks of dryness. In fact, let me just show you the full 2 weeks. This could be a bit of a concern if the models have this correct. We're wetter, Minas Gerais, gosh, I can never say that right, and Bahia, Goiás, Tocantins near normal, and Mato Grosso. But this dryness that's down here in Buenos Aires needs to be monitored carefully going forward. All right, I want to finish with this. I've been just trying to understand how this end of winter, start of spring is going to look. We've had a lot of discussion about the rapid fade of La Niña. But I was looking specifically at the last week's worth of warm-up here and what the ocean temperatures have done kind of in response to this. And I've been looking like, all right, we put together this list of analogs. Which of these looks best? And you know that for most of winter, we were hung up on 18, 14, and 09. Now, it wasn't just ocean temperatures that informed those analogs. Now, I'm just going to put this out here. This is speculative, so we don't need to add anything more to what I'm going to say, okay? But I'm curious about 2023. Now, 2023 was an El Niño summer, okay? And right now, February 14th, the newest data I've got from 2026 versus where we were in mid-February 2023, this is quite similar. And what I am most interested in is what's going on here as we watch El Niño begin to take over. This area is what we're going to watch. As soon as we get into March and April, I'm going to be less interested here and more interested in what's going on there. Now, if you don't remember what happened, well, February, interestingly enough, late February was wetter in California and wetter here. And that's very similar to what we're going to be seeing. Oh, by the way, it was drier in Argentina. Very interesting. Actually, a lot of activity here like we're having this year, although more of this is getting into Australia as we go forward in time. Now that's February. What happened in March of 2023? Again, this is a single analog. We're just using this for reference. That is all. Okay? We let the data, there's March. Now look at this. Now you know that the end of February is going to go really, really wet here. And we're like, all right, but you said March. Well, I understand. Remember, the atmosphere doesn't care that we have a calendar. But it was wet in through here, and it was drier in the plains, drier in the southeast. There is some hints of 2023 in this pattern. And I want to keep thinking about it because, well, let's go have a look at what April did. In April, I'm looking specifically at the southern plains. And what I'm starting to see is April of 23 was drier here and then wet in the southeast. And then if you go in there and say, well, show me what happened in May, let's just keep looking at this. May was very dry in through here because a big ridge of high pressure set up like that and storms ran the edge. So we just have to recognize that 2023 was technically our last El Niño event. I'd like to look at this website to see it. So if you look, here's 6 years with only one in the middle of El Niño, and there it is. That's the year we're just having a look at because we're curious. Are we going to do this? That's what all the discussion is going to be about. Because right now our models are saying come out of the basement up toward could be a relatively strong El Niño event, and even the new CPC forecast. Sorry, let's shrink that up. Has got neutral conditions for the remainder of winter and spring, and then it's trying to bring on by summer El Niño conditions. And this was just the newest update on February 12th from the Climate Prediction Center. They've also updated this, which is the new IRI multi-model probability forecast. So again, what they're doing is they're taking the national multi-model ensemble and applying a statistical correction to it. So it's just another way by which to look at these longer term forecasts. And this again is from Columbia University. So this is global March, April, May, and let's do April, May, June. Now, interestingly enough, if I just zoom in here on North America, the model was initialized very dry here, and it tries to keep that. If we do a 2023 scenario, this was stormy. Do you remember that? So this just shows that some of the uncertainty we've got going forward into the spring is still lingering, and we're unable to kind of get past that. May, June, July, they're trying to bring all the heat back to the west and the dryness back to the west, especially into June, July, August, right there. Now, one of the big reasons for this is these models are keeping the Northeast Pacific, the Gulf of Alaska, very, very warm this summer in the forecast models as El Nino develops. And when El Ninos develop, they tend to give us a lot of ridge-riding storms that come through here. Actually tend to be drier and hotter in Texas. So the model here, not representing those kind of historical or typical El Nino type behaviors. Okay, I've gone on way too long in this video, but I wanted to kind of give you my weekend thoughts. I'll talk to you again on Wednesday. Matt will pick it up tomorrow morning. Have a good one. Thanks.